Yes, thank you. And thanks to all of you for welcoming us here in Seattle. We had a really nice day yesterday, and I think today is also going to looking very good. Especially thanks to you, Nancy, and your team for setting everything up. I would like to try to give an overview of the drivers and the pathways for green stormwater infrastructures in Denmark. So, first I will shortly say what do I think is the main drivers, and I hope the rest of the Danish team agree on that. And then I'll tell shortly about the group, who we are, and then I will try to fly through some of the projects that are going on in Denmark right now. So, the main drivers for change in the stormwater management in the Danish cities. I think that first of all it is climate change adaptation. That is on top of everybody's mind. How to avoid these uncontrolled floodings that we have seen for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Another quite important driver is the environmental protection and how to reduce the combined sewer flows. Some additional drivers it's about increasing the livability of the cities. Use stormwater as a positive for aesthetical reasons, for social integration, increased biodiversity, mitigating urban heat island. These things are on the agenda to a more or less extended degree across the country. And the final driver that I have highlighted is how to reduce the water footprint. This is the area of Copenhagen, with the city located here, but the white marked areas here outlining the groundwater aquifers that are supplying the capital city with water. So if we can reduce the water footprint by stormwater harvesting, by increased infiltration, that is a benefit. It's not high on the agenda, but it is there. Our group, I think we're like 33, 34 people joining this tour. We are all part of a strategic partnership that we have named Water in Urban Areas. We are supported by the Danish Council for Technology and Innovation. And we started 2 years ago, and we will finish by the end of 2014. We have been given a grant of approximately 4.2 million US dollars. And today we are like 150 partners, institutions across the nations. And I guess that the 33 people joining this tour represent like 25 of these partners. So we are trying to create a joint place where we have two main purposes. We use 20% of this grant here for knowledge sharing, knowledge home-taking, like this tour. Last year we had a tour around Scandinavia, next year we will go around in Europe to take home new knowledge, and then we also use a lot of time on matchmaking and identifying problems and good ideas. The major part of our grant is used for specific innovation projects, and so far we have initiated 12 of these innovation projects, and I will give you an introduction to some of them. The requirement for using money on these innovation projects is that it has a triple helix structure, and it means that in each project we should have at least one public institution representing the end users, one private company, and one research institution, and preferably more. So maybe I could ask the Danish participants to raise your hands if you are a public institution, including, yeah, so these are you are a research institution, sorry. Yeah. And how many do we have from the private companies? Yeah, and from the research institutions, including DHI, I think? Yes? And I think that is quite representative for our partnership. What do we aim to achieve? The overall goal is to contribute to the transformation of cities from climate-sensitive units with a high greenhouse gas emission to climate resilient cities with low greenhouse gas emissions and continued growth and welfare. So the idea of water in urban areas is to facilitate such processes. And the idea behind it is that we will come through with a transformation of the Danish cities, and as an extra benefit, maybe we will come up with some good solutions that can be exported and help pay back the investment in the transformation of the cities. One of the key questions is this one: grey or green solutions? Should we go for larger pipes, sewer-based climate change adaptation, or can we come through with some disconnections, landscape-based adaptations? I think that there's a joint understanding that by having an integrated approach where we lift the investments in the climate change adaptation from below ground to above ground may have a lot of benefits. For instance, enhancing biodiversity, creating new meeting places, supporting mobility in the city. But the key question is really, is this worth the investment, or is it too costly? That is really the key question. We have like a three-way approach to it in terms of sizing this potential. First of all, that's a question of the quantity. Is it at all possible to find room in the city for all this water? How about the quality? In Denmark, we rely heavily on groundwater for drinking water supply, so we are not interested in polluting that water if we start to increase the infiltration of perhaps contaminated water. And the last thing is, can we really make this added value come through? Can we increase the life quality? So there's a lot of issues and a lot of disciplines that have to work together in order to assess these things. And that is really the background for this partnership. And now I will come through these innovation projects, which will be a quite rapid flyover of what is going on. I hope we will have time to discuss it a little further if you have some specific questions. But regarding the quantity issue, can we find room in the city? So to avoid this, and this alternative to making bigger pipes, can we use the green infrastructure? So we are looking into permeable pavings. Can we create pavings that has a huge storage capacity below ground so that we can really create a delay in the city? We are testing a new carrying layer based on gravel. We are also doing runoff hydrographs from green roofs to see if these are the runoff hydrographs from two types of green roofs, compared with the blue one is the precipitation, and this brown one that follows it closely is a runoff from our test roof, which is an ordinary hard roof. So the question is, if this retention here that we have between the different events, if this is so used that we can actually count on it and reduce or avoid increasing our pipes. It depends on the associated return periods for these rains here. In another project, we are looking into the opportunity of increasing the infiltration rate. If we understand the soil better, we have morainic till soils in Denmark, and there's a huge variability in the morphology of these soils. And if we can map that morphology, we may be able to place our infiltration devices more strategically, so that we can use the more permeable layers for rapid infiltration. We do also make experiments with biological stimulation of the soil. Can we increase the earthworm population in urban areas to increase the infiltration rate? Regarding the water quality issue, we are, as I said, very concerned about that. We have focused on all these groups of contaminants, and we are looking into the opportunities for cleaning the water, the runoff water, before discharging or infiltrating the water. So we try to document if we can use the soil as a filter, doing engineered soils as we do here. So we have a test facility right next to a parking area where we have made an infiltration trench, and on top of that we put the filter soil, the engineered soil, and we have then equipment for taking out samples to see if it meets the requirements. We also do test with this technology that we call dual porosity filtration, specifically developed for treatment of road runoff. We have a pilot plant in Copenhagen, and this is the quality of the road runoff as it receives the facility, and it's a horizontal flowing treatment facility, and for every meter it becomes cleaner. And now we're going to test if these some industrially produced panels can do the job in a real setting. We have 3 selected roads in a suburb or in an area of Copenhagen where we would like to disconnect these roads, take the road runoff into a park and use an existing ditch for water storage, and then treating the stormwater in a dual porosity facility before we discharge to a stream. Okay, the integrated approach. I have selected these projects. Can we increase the biodiversity and improve the habitat quality in our cities by linking stormwater management to this? We have an example in a northern or in a municipality north of Copenhagen called Allerød, where they're going to build some retention basins here. And the idea is then to link the design of these basins with the biodiversity strategy of that municipality to see if we can create some good habitats for some of the species that they are targeting. We also try to improve the communication and the educational aspects. We have a project called Climate School, Innovation Project 9, I hope. Which is organized with 3 groups. One group is looking into the technology, one into the teaching aspects, and one into the communication with the community. And the main products will be a technological experimental lab and a concept for all schools in Denmark, and a new teaching portal with new products for the teachers to use when dealing with climate change adaptation. And we also make a website where we try to collect some method descriptions, guidelines, and also to give some examples of the real projects, one-to-one physical projects that are emerging in Denmark. And I have selected this one because this is, I think, the first real disconnection in Copenhagen at least. We are in Valby, which is a rather central urban area, rather densely built, where the stormwater runoff from these buildings have been disconnected and is now managed in the yard of that area. So this is a proof that it is possible to do this green stormwater infrastructure management also in already existing, quite densely built areas. Okay, and as a final example, I would like to highlight an ongoing project in the city of Copenhagen. They have the idea of making a strategy for their green infrastructure, and actually we have Henriette Bergring with us here, who is the head of that strategy. She is from the Park and Nature Department in the city of Copenhagen, and the strategy will be for blue-green infrastructure in Copenhagen, and the main goal is to expand the green network and provide more green spaces. Here you see Copenhagen, quite close to the ocean. We have quite a lot of green areas already, and some nice blue areas with some lakes. The idea is then to provide more of this and to make a better connectivity, but on top of that, the idea is to integrate with a lot of added values. So the idea is that the green infrastructure should also manage the stormwater runoff, buffer the urban heat island, which is not a big problem in Copenhagen, but still we have some measurements showing that some areas can become very hot during heat spells. It should make room for more nature and be integrated with the biodiversity strategy, and it should improve mobility conditions, especially for bicycle riders, And it should preferably also create some new jobs in Copenhagen. And it may end up looking something like this, with integrating some of the new biking lanes, these dotted lines here, with some major structures for stormwater management, with the existing green areas, and try to come up with guidelines on how to mitigate the hotspot, the urban heat island that are identified in the city. Yes. So I think in Denmark we have an advantage of having a very broad, how do you say? There's a lot of actors from all sides of the Danish society and from a lot of disciplines that are working together on this, and it's not only in the capital city or in the major cities, it is very widely spread out. And I think this partnership is a good chance of sharing knowledge. So I think there's a great potential in Denmark for coming up with some good results on this potential. But I would also say that we are still only on step number 1 in harvesting or gaining experience. And this is why it is of such great inspiration to us to come here and see that you are actually just doing a lot of things. And you will pick up on the experiment, on the experiences, and that is really what we are also interested in following in the years to come. So we have been very happy being here in Seattle, and we're looking forward to our Portland and San Francisco stay as well. Thank you.
Any questions? Anybody have questions? Well, this is actually a segment we said there could be questions of any of the speakers. So maybe you thought of something after Brian or Annika, and you'd like to present that. Just see what kind of questions you might have, and then whoever's going to answer. Don't be shy.
I'd be interested in some of the Danish reactions to the examples that they've seen, because when I spent time there, it reminded me of the discussion we're having about urbanism, about density itself as a DMP. And in many cases, when I was there, we were so vibrant, so well connected, that I said, you know, even a great rain garden here wouldn't necessarily keep working the trade-off of what they're achieving in social conditions. It seemed to be part of why you're able to keep people willing to live so close together and attacking so much more areas. I'd be interested in any of the Danes' reactions. If they see High Point later today, or are these things in their mind a trade-off between some of the other wins that they've got, or are they basically seeing the stormwater infrastructure as something that's really going to heighten those social experiences, community building that they excel at?
I'm assuming you all heard David's Henry's voice. So are there any responses to our David guests? Questions?
Yes, I think I could respond to you. I'm not sure if I'm speaking for all of the group, but my simple private own explanation would be, I think, of course, in Denmark we're talking also about all different kinds of densities. We have the inner city of Copenhagen, as you have the inner city of city center of Seattle, where you're basically working with green roofs, for example. That's also something we are aiming at to promote green roof technology. And then we have all the suburbs with the private house owners where we could think of something like the Rainwise program would be something that I think is very well adaptable to the Danish conditions. So yes, we can learn a lot because we have all these different kinds of density as well. And I think if we want to implement green infrastructure in the inner city center, then our key word or magical word is synergies. Try to find ways to combine all the different interconnections so that we don't lose anything of the good things we have, but for example, connect the green infrastructure to our cycling routes. So we have a lot of cycling routes to the city, and if we manage to combine these two, then I think we are very far, and that's what we are heading at.
Any other responses?
I'd just like to say that I think from coming from the private sector, it's been very rewarding to see how you're actually having a lot of the same problems with particularly in this issue about legal framework and who's going to pay and who's actually in charge of what, about the maintenance and all this, because we're in the middle of that. We're in the middle of trying to find ways of actually challenging our own legal framework, which is practically changing it. And knowing how you can deal with it and actually having many of the same problems that we are in the middle of it. I think it's quite rewarding to know that it's not just an easy walk over, it's also something to struggle with. So we'd like to exchange those views and experiences over time.
Nancy, can we invite our guest to go to the microphone?
Yeah, I was actually just going to say this is a perfect segue into the next segment, and that will get us back on schedule as well. So the next segment is for the U.S. participants to be at the same tables as the Danes, and for really the Danes to be asking, thinking about how this, what they've seen here could be applied to their Danish context.
Turn this on.
So, can you hear me? No. So the next segment would be for two things to happen. One is to make sure that every table has a mixture of Danes and U.S. participants. And then each table should designate a recorder, I think preferably a Danish recorder, because I think Antje wants your responses. She wants to collect these at the end. And so the first thing to do would just be to brainstorm. What are the new ideas of what you've heard and seen that you think could be applied in the Danish context? And then maybe if we have time, you could filter through those to say, oh, this one would really work in mine, or I can really see this as an export product, or whatever applies to your situation. So let's just see, if you're at a Danish table and you have no U.S. participants, could you put your hand up? So could we have some U.S. participants join this table? And this table here? I think you're all mostly Danes.